Good morning. My name is Tina Khanum. Welcome to our podcast. This is the key podcast called the K Vision podcast to listen to if you want to be energized, motivated, and increase your productivity and learn more about what is on offer in our eye community. This show will explore new ideas and innovations and how we can shape our future eye care for our patients and our colleagues. My wonderful guest today is Mr. James Innes. He's been an expert and a very senior consultant from Scotland, and he has led the skills faculty wet lab service for the college for many years now. He is the Heels Eye consultant as well as the simulation lead for School of Ophthalmology in Yorkshire. Welcome, James, or welcome, Jim. We call you Jim. How are you today?
I'm very good, thank you. Just
So
recovering from a long course yesterday, but feeling good.
excellent. So welcome to the season 2, episode 3 of our podcast. So today we're going to concentrate on your wonderful contribution and work on wet lab surgery, and also talk about our collaboration of upcoming corneal wet lab transplant course that we've got on the 2nd of October this year at the college. So can you tell me what drew you into wet lab training and simulation training, and how has your journey been in ophthalmology?
Well, when I was a new consultant, I actually worked in Hull, although I'm from Scotland. I I began to be interested in training in all sorts of ways, and my very first simulation product that I bought was, I think, in 1987.
Wow.
And in those days, we were doing extracapsular surgery,
Yeah.
and we weren't all that sure where the implants were going. You know, they were in the sulcus, but some of them were in the legs were in the ciliary body or the vitreous.
Yeah.
And so someone developed the idea, obviously, there was the Miyake apple view, so you looked at the anterior calotte of the eye from behind, and
Yeah.
then you could work out where the implant had gone.
Oh, amazing.
So I bought some kit for that, and the idea was to formalize some animal eyes and then use the anterior calotte for putting the implants in.
Yeah.
And I was even at the stage of trying to get an old endoscope to fit to this gadget
Yeah.
so that we could actually see the implant going into place.
Oh, amazing.
But it didn't work very well because the sealing of the anterior half of the eye wasn't brilliant.
Right.
And I eventually abandoned it, but I've still used the kit to make heads for the wet lab and so on. So,
Excellent. So for our listeners who are not familiar with the term wet lab and how we use it for eye surgery training, can you explain what the process is?
well, obviously, when we're doing cataract surgery, we're using a fair bit of balanced salt. In the lab. We just use tap water,
Yeah.
but it's wet,
Yeah.
so we need to be able to drain that fluid somehow.
Yeah.
So some of my interest has been in making it so that that can work very well
Yeah.
without having trays and other kind of makeshift things. So I developed a workstation with a drain built in,
Yeah.
and we made a face that fitted in this so that when the water flowed off the eye products, we just didn't have to worry about it. It all drained away safely.
Yeah, you must have lots of first timers and funny stories about, the first time trainees tried wet lab. Can you share a funny story with us?
A funny story. Um, I'm not so sure I can think. We have tried all sorts of things, and we've experimented on the trainees in terms of seeing how things work and what works best.
Yeah.
But my very first wet lab in Hull was in what was previously the store for trolleys to take patients to theatre,
Yeah.
and we had some old phaco machines.
Yeah.
But the medical physicists thought that they were the spares, so they quite often gutted the phaco machines in the wet lab.
Oh,
And so twice I went in and to run a course
yeah.
and found out that the phaco machines were empty shells and all the bits had been taken to keep the theatre running.
Oh my goodness.
So the medical physicist and I had to have quite a stern conversation to
Yeah.
sort out the importance of actually running a wet lab rather than, if he deigns, it's okay. So
Yeah. And how do you assess a trainee is ready from a wet lab surgery situation to live surgery, for example?
I don't think that that's actually the purpose of wet lab, but I've been asked that many times, and actually I remember discussions online about people with some difficulties, and we'll send them to the wet lab and they can be assessed.
Yeah.
It doesn't quite work like that.
Yeah.
I remember many years ago in the days of the 3-day and microsurgical skills course
Yeah.
that one of the trainees on the first day was, let's say, not doing very well.
Mm.
And the trainers were all looking at each other a bit funny. But by the third day,
Yeah.
this trainee was head and shoulders above all the others
Oh
in
wow.
terms of ability. And
Yeah.
so you can't really tell. And I personally think that the purpose of a wet lab is to allow people to practice their skills, help them develop their skills, but
Yeah.
more importantly, to make them enthusiastic to go on and do that.
Yeah.
And if you have at the end of the course, as we have had some recently, where
Yeah.
the trainees have enjoyed themselves so much, we get a round of applause. That's pretty good going.
Yeah.
And it just shows them that by practice they can do amazing things. And we've got youngsters now coming to the Introduction to Ophthalmic Surgery course.
Yeah.
And by the end of the day, they've got a row of corneal sutures.
Oh,
And
amazing.
at the beginning of the day, they couldn't tie a knot.
Yeah.
So
Wow.
it's a pretty nice feeling that. And
Yeah.
they all go off eager to learn. And because the other point is that when we're teaching, let's say we're teaching phaco surgery,
Yeah.
it's not our word is law. We're showing them what we would do, but we're very well aware that the person taking the biggest responsibility is the person training them in their own department.
Yeah. Exactly.
And they have to form a relationship with them. So we definitely don't want them going and saying, well, Mr. Innes says we do it this way and that sort of thing. We want the trainees to go enthusiastic to learn. We give them hints about that.
Yeah.
For example, you say, um, when you're in the theatre, in the operating theatre, and your boss says, right, I'm going to let you do some of the case.
Yeah.
I say, do you think your heart rate will be quite high then?
Yeah.
And they all say yes. And I say, well, your boss's heart rate is even higher.
Exactly.
And so you have to understand the dynamics of the situation. And if you go unable to adjust your microscope,
Yeah.
then that's not going to get you off to a good start. So we tell them about practicing using the microscope,
Yeah.
practice with the nurses on how to serve up the instruments in the correct order and so on.
Yeah. That's
And
interesting. So
that all helps with that relationship with their consultant. So
yeah. So wet lab is really a practice session where with minimizing the risk, they can work on their psychology themselves, hence work on, showing their trainer that they're ready to learn and
yeah,
they're
I think that's right. I think that's right. We do obviously want them to get some of the motor skills.
yes,
And sometimes it's the fine detail, the devil's in the details.
yeah,
So just buying some off the shelf synthetic eyes is all very well.
yeah,
But then the trainers need to learn how to set those up and how to use them properly.
yeah.
And we've made a number of hacks over the years that have definitely made a huge improvement in how these are used.
Yeah, that's brilliant. And then I remember when I came to learn about corneal transplantation, there wasn't any wet lab facility in UK, for example. The nearest one was Netherlands, Maastricht, and I was determined to, foster something locally that the trainees could access. So I've invited the Moorfields consultants and put up our first corneal wet lab transplantation course at the college in 2019. And since then, we've had quite a few other groups that have started their own, such as the Imperial and the Moorfields. and we've got the college one that's coming up in October. How has your experience been in developing corneal transplant wet lab course, and can you share how that
Yeah, so well, obviously we did the first one in Hull about 5 years ago,
yeah,
and we learned how to use the anterior chamber, the artificial anterior chambers,
yeah,
and developed a way of using those in
yeah,
the same way as the actual trainer version.
yeah,
The trainer version is definitely easier to use, but it is possible to hack the
yeah,
real ones, as it were.
yeah.
And I remember then we did that thing with the onions to
Yes,
practice stamping the corneas. And
exactly.
that was quite interesting, although it was a bit smelly and we had lots of onions cut up all over the place.
Yes, yes,
And of course, techniques have moved on since then.
yeah,
But that's one of the ways that that was a nice paper from India about
yeah.
using the onion membranes.
Excellent. Yeah, it is.
So,
It's a good simulator for the Decimal membrane. So yeah, definitely that was a great one that everyone had quite they enjoyed using it, and the trainees and
yeah,
the trainers.
as long as they didn't use their nose.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
so what? Yeah, go on. That's
I was just going to say, so trainees now are in a really good position. You know, they've got the course at the college, the course at Moorfields, course at Imperial, three courses to choose from in London, and also in Hull, there's one in the north. So there's four in total in UK, and you've still got the Netherlands DMEC course as well. But why should they come to the college one compared to the other ones, would you say?
well, we've upgraded the facilities at the college, so now every microscope has a screen,
Yeah,
and so we can see what they're doing in real time.
yeah,
And I've arranged it so that the screens are kind of above the heads of the users,
yeah.
so that the trainers can stand back and watch several at a time, and then they can spot people having difficulty and go over and help,
Exactly.
rather than standing beside them constantly, sort of in their space.
Yeah,
And
and giving their
so
hand it up. Yeah,
the trainees, the users of the wet lab get the ability to just get on with their own way of doing things, but then we can watch and help them.
yeah,
And obviously, if they ask for help, we can go over and help.
yeah,
So that's the kind of principle I've done.
yeah.
And this year we've actually introduced an instant replay system.
Oh,
So the trainers now all have an iPad which they can use to film the screen,
yeah.
and it will give up to 10 minutes of instant replay. And
Oh,
then you can draw on the surface of the iPad to show things. And we can even do it here.
yeah,
So you can point things out and so
yeah.
on. So
Oh, that's brilliant. Okay, so so quite a lot of technology investment in the wet lab course, and
yeah,
really the skills facility course. And what really struck me in the course that we've been running is that we always ensure that we've got at least 2-to-1 ratio of trainer to
mm,
trainees, and you know we give individual um, attention to each trainee, and the ratio we keep
yeah,
that to a minimum. So this year, how many trainers we've got? We've got 7 trainers for 12 candidates. So
yeah, yeah.
that's
That's pretty
brilliant.
good.
It's
Yeah.
really it's even better than 2-to-1. So yeah, that's another advantage. And in terms of you know, just logistics of coming to London, people would be traveling from, you know, all parts of UK or outside UK. Um, how would you how would you say the college has ensured that they're looked after in terms of the price and the facilities?
Well, obviously there is a steeper price in London. It's just the facts of life, but
Yeah,
um, the none of the trainers are paid.
yeah,
And I always make that very clear to the attendees at courses at the college that
yeah.
we're all unpaid volunteers. But
We are.
that doesn't mean we don't cost. We have to stay in a hotel the night before, and
Yeah,
we have to travel, and
yeah,
that's covered by the cost of the course.
yeah,
But this particular course is starting a little bit later,
yeah.
so that people can travel in the morning rather than having to come and stay overnight.
Excellent. And do you see the evolution of wet lab training throughout your training periods and your consultancy? And where do you see the future to be of wet lab training?
Well, obviously, I didn't start the idea of wet lab, and in fact, as is the case in much of medicine, there was a slight bit of controversy because we opened our new hospital in Hull in 2003,
Yeah.
and I had a trust grade doctor and four SHOs to look after.
Yeah.
And I put them all on the same rota, which didn't go down very well. But actually, the trust grade doctor was a New Zealander who'd come across, and he was on a stellar pathway. He did 70 FACOs the first year. He
Amazing.
wrote two papers. He appeared at two national meetings
Amazing.
and was on a great path.
Yeah.
But at that stage, the college wouldn't allow him to go on the microsurgical skills course.
Oh, I
So
see.
I thought, well, I'm going to set up something locally for the people who can't go to college. And
Amazing.
so I joined the faculty in 2003
Yeah.
and really, really enjoyed it. And of course, then things changed,
Yeah.
and the college would take those people onto the course. But
Yeah.
I really enjoyed it, and I got to the stage where I was leading courses.
Yeah, yeah. That's brilliant. And the facility that you built at Hills is, second to none. It's been an amazing thing to see you grow that over the last
Yeah,
decade.
and pretty much on a shoestring. That's the problem.
Yeah,
So
but you've done.
there isn't the big money for the big ticket items are of course the simulators,
Yes,
and lots of people can't see beyond that.
yeah,
But actually, a decent wet lab would cost you a lot less.
yeah.
And
You're right.
especially nowadays that we can have access to small desktop microscopes
Yeah,
that are really inexpensive. You know, it's
yeah,
possible to develop a wet lab for thousands rather than hundreds of thousands of pounds. So.
yes. Can you, for our listener, can you tell us a little bit about what the simulator is compared to the wet lab and how they,
Well, obviously, the virtual reality simulator
yeah,
is very highly regarded, and there
yeah,
are lots of them.
yeah,
But in my opinion, there wasn't ever really a national plan. And we're
yeah.
talking about equipment now that costs almost £200,000.
Oof, gosh,
And
yeah,
so it is a very great thing for the new surgeons to practice on,
yeah, yeah,
but it's not everything. It doesn't have any water for
yeah.
them to manage.
Exactly.
And I mean, it does allow them to adjust the seating position properly,
Yeah,
which is one of the things we try to do in Hull. We've got adjustable everything.
yeah,
And so the idea is that we teach them to sit properly from the very beginning.
exactly.
The simulator does also have the advantage of recording all the metrics,
Yeah,
which allows people to experiment and to show the improvement in simulation. But there are improvements from simple wet labs as well.
yeah. Amazing.
Um,
We've written
and yeah,
all that.
sorry, I see them as complementary. And
Yeah,
so the problem is if you take the analogy that we're teaching 700 people to play the piano,
yeah,
you can't teach 700 people to play the piano just with 50 grand pianos.
exactly.
You have to have local keyboards as well.
Yeah,
And ideally, I think every trainee should have a microscope that they have to practice on.
yeah,
And the problem with that is that because the simulator does the metrics,
yeah,
they can be left more or less with the built-in training software,
yeah,
and the trainers don't have to give too much attention.
yeah,
If we were doing the analogy of having a local piano,
yeah,
then you'd need piano teachers,
yeah,
and you'd need to have people to say, "You're not very good at your scales this week. Can you do some more, and we'll see you again next week?"
yeah,
And
exactly.
that and obviously encourage the learners to do more.
Yeah,
And I think that's the issue really, that we have trainers who are actually too busy,
yeah.
and so the training you know, is limited. And I think the other issue is that trainers don't always get all the training that they should have. So
Absolutely,
so
absolutely.
here we are in a wet lab, allowing people to practice before they operate on real patients.
Yeah,
And yet the trainers sometimes are so busy that they just turn up and wing it. And
yeah,
actually learning to use the wet lab and learning all the tricks
yeah.
is quite time consuming.
Absolutely right. Yeah, there should. there has to be a training for the trainers as well as the trainee, and that's the
Yeah, I
best.
mean, we've been trying to improve that, and obviously there has been efforts in the past,
Yeah,
but we're trying to improve that. So when we introduce new materials into the wet lab, we run a 3-day course, and the first day course was for the trainers to try out the stuff.
excellent. Yeah, because I
And that's
remember
been,
having those sessions with you before we ran our one in
yeah,
2019.
yeah. So we
That's
have to,
quite enjoyable.
yeah, you
Yeah,
have to learn what they're going to be learning on. I think
yeah.
that's the,
That's it, and how you can efficiently, transfer their skills so they can relate it and apply it when they come to do live surgery.
sure.
It's is the main thing. The other interesting thing that I picked up on, you highlighted about sitting properly when you're operating, and it's really important because so many of the surgeons will have neck pain, lower back pain because of the way they sit at the microscope or the way they manage their backs and their posture. So that's really useful. So that's one of the things that you'd advise future trainees who are just beginning in the journey. Is there any other tips you would give to the young surgeons or young trainees about conducting themselves while operating?
Yeah, I mean, there are moves, and we have done some, and other colleagues have done excellent work on human factors.
Yeah,
And you can certainly use wet labs to
yeah,
practice human factors
excellent.
or transfer those materials into the real operating theatre
Yeah,
and run a whole training for the whole staff.
yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
we've done that in the past, and we're about to run a human factors course in college this year.
Are you amazing? Okay,
Yeah, so we're working out how to run an operating theatre in the skills lab, and
excellent,
we've got
excellent.
some good ideas, I think. So
Yeah. Oh no, the human factors is such a big topic that, often is overlooked, and it'll be very useful to the, trainees so they
yeah,
get into the psyche of how to run their own theatre and how to conduct their own posture and be a role model to the team. So yeah, that's
so
that's brilliant.
yeah, I mean, we obviously include that kind of discussion
Yeah,
while we're doing the training in the skills lab at the college. We try to have that, and that's been incorporated in the microsurgical skills training for years and years. And we
excellent.
try to bring that up to date and give people hints about how they should behave when
Yeah,
they start.
yeah,
they go into theatre, we tell them about asking the nurses to teach them to scrub up and be the first
yeah,
assistant.
yeah,
And we tell them to, sit and watch what goes on, spend a morning watching their
exactly.
boss's foot
Yeah,
on the pedal and see what they're doing,
exactly.
and so on and so on.
Yeah. Yeah. How they conduct their wrist and their hand, how they rest, how they use their feet, and the whole coordination. And also
Yeah,
learn from the scrub nurses who've been doing it for years how to
yeah.
scrub. That's very important. So, as we wrap up our session, is there any final thoughts you'd like to share with our audience? And how can our audience and new trainees learn more about your work and connect with you?
Yeah, so one of the things I've been very interested in is the amount of teaching that goes on in a wet lab.
Yeah,
And I've been trying very, very hard to flip the classroom so that the knowledge acquisition is
yeah,
separate from
yeah,
from the actual physical practice.
yeah,
You've got an extremely expensive facility,
yeah.
and then you spend half the time giving PowerPoints.
Exactly.
And it's really, really not what we should be doing.
Yeah.
And this is not about learning styles. This is simply best use of the technology available.
Yeah.
And then some colleagues say, well, what if the trainees haven't done any reading
Yeah.
and they turn up? And you say, well, we give them plenty to read.
Exactly. Yeah.
So are we going to penalize most of them for the few who haven't done their homework? And the
Absolutely.
answer is not. The answer is that you make them enthusiastic so they go home and do the homework afterwards.
Exactly. Yeah. The whole thing is
Um,
to motivate
the
and get them.
Yeah, so we can't possibly teach a whole lifetime of experience in 1 or 2 days.
Yeah.
What you can do is teach them how to conduct themselves,
Yeah.
how to be enthusiastic, make them want to learn more all the rest of their lives.
Absolutely.
And that's the way we should be running it, not I have taught you everything I know.
Exactly.
because we know from lectures that people pick up 1 or 2 points from a whole hour's lecture. And
Absolutely.
that's what we should bear in mind when we're trying to do a wet lab
Yeah.
training.
Absolutely. Thank you very much, Jim. And the three home
Very
truths
welcome.
from today's session is wet lab is a complementary to simulation and your training in the theatre. And this should teach you a lot about psychology and how to conduct yourself and how to reduce your risk while you're practicing and getting ready for live surgery, and how it can improve your not only your skills transfer but also your journey as an eye surgeon. So thank you very much
Yes,
for being on
you're
the
very welcome.
podcast. Thank you so much. Take
Very welcome.
care. Okay.